I was just going to start with a brief prayer or karakia or lotu, as we say. Um, just to go on. I've actually got my wife who's joining me for moral support
And
and for
grandson.
interest and grandson. E o toa tata ki ao, malu i ao, whakaolo ai mamai rotu toto. E angohilo, hoi tu ungingira, ko koe ai malohi mo e mafi. Oh God, guide me. Prayer in Tongan language. Yes, so tēnā koutou katoa, malo lei, ngalo nguru winawu, wunga kurumba piji. My name is Aleki. Aleki is my indigenized name. I was actually born Alexander, but nobody calls me that now, thankfully. I have my wife here, Tina, and colleague. We work together. Our grandson, Jacob. So this is my PhD study here. Been going at it now for a couple of years, maybe 2.5 years. The Kiwi drink driving culture is focusing mostly on Indigenous, or totally on Indigenous Kiwis, although Kiwi is the name for a generic name for New Zealanders, as you probably know. And the reason being is that Māori and Pacifica people suffer disproportionately through many alcohol-related causes, but drink driving is one area too. So about myself, Kawaii, who am I? Just for the sake of time, I won't go completely through the pepeha, but there it is. I don't look like it, but I'm a Tongan citizen through marriage. We lived in Tonga for 3 years as well, so I connect to the Pacific. Born and bred in New Zealand. I was born in Poirua, as you can see. My father came from England. In fact, my whakapapa is from Britain. The hongi is in the picture there is earlier there was talk of the relational aspects. Francis was talking about relational research, and the hongi is no better example of that, touching noses. The photo there is us with our kids living in Tonga, 25 years working in psychology, a lot of that time working with Māori and Pacifica, sometimes in dedicated Māori mental health teams and a Pacific mental health team. If we look at the issue, it's well documented that Māori and Pacific people have worse outcomes in terms of alcohol-related harm. Drink driving statistics are fairly scant, or they're not well kept or identified, but they do indicate that way as well. And we both work in a rehab program we've been running for the last 17 years. More than 50% of people in that program are Māori or Pacific, so Indigenous to the South Pacific, and that says something. The picture there is a stereotype because it's become common usage that people in group will say, well, I grew up in a once were warriors type situation, and they're meaning that where there was abuse and alcohol in their childhood. Sadly, the plight of Indigenous people, as we know, is similar worldwide. Australia and Canada, being colonized countries, have also got the same issue. Putting people in jail does not seem to produce lasting change, of course. If we go back, I've already mentioned colonization. That has to be a big part of the picture. You can see there was drink riding around 150 odd years ago. And that man, and the Maori man there, Haimona Heroti Te Aotearangi, has got a really interesting story because he actually fought for the British, what was called kupapa, against what were seen as land resistant Maori iwi. But later he might have come to regret that because he was involved in writing this letter to Parliament about the impact of alcohol. As you notice, Captain Cook's looking the other way. He's disinterested in that such facts or information. We had a person in group who said that drinking was in his DNA, a Maori man in the group. He was trying to describe intergenerational use, and it felt like it was in his DNA. And that's how ingrained the issue is. You can add anything you like, Tim, as we go. So if we look at the researchers, Banks and Cook were researchers. They gathered a lot of data. The question has to be asked, for what purpose? And Francis again asked this question earlier. It's unlikely that they were gathering data for the benefit of Indigenous peoples. And you see there Smith, Linda Tuiwai Smith, a prominent Māori researcher and academic in New Zealand, has decided that research was a dirty word. It's a form of gaslighting, I think, that where Indigenous people were considered not to have opinions worthy. And again, that was touched on earlier. And that bears out in the initial some of the data and the stories or the discourse that people have given, which I'll get onto later. I'm sort of presenting a little bit back to front, but I thought this was a valuable comment that somebody made about the loss of identity, disenfranchisement, and where they felt in the moment. So the important thing for me as we've talked, the symposiums talked a lot about non-Indigenous researchers. So I am I'm Pākehā or Pālangi. I can't deny that I'm a privileged white male. I mean, that's my background. It's not so easy to say, but I'm saying it quite a bit because it's important for me to say that. And I think that's definitely an important starting point. And to do that, in saying that, I have to also acknowledge history and the Indigenous voice. So I would be regarded as an outsider as much as I feel like an insider through marriage or family connections to Māori, or however, people will still see me as representing something because of my look and my whakapapa on my background. Did you want to add something? No.
The colour.
Yeah, the colour. However, I feel quite different from some of our Pākehā leaders in this country, but I won't go into that in detail. That's another presentation. So this is important because cultural competency starts with an awareness of one's own origins. And that's a constant awareness. It has to be like, again, reflexivity was talked about, to just be aware of one's own background and where we're coming from and where we're going and what we're doing with the information and what our real purpose is. Positionality. So what I bring to the table, my worldview, and some of that might be unconscious. That's the challenging part, the unconscious bias. So I have had, as part of my research, I have cultural advisors and consultants who I meet with on a regular basis. Some of these people I've worked with in the past and colleagues, and gaining the right sort of ethics approval, which went through the University of Canterbury Māori department and the Pacifica department. Francis talked about respect, reciprocity, and relational nature of research. And the relationship is very important because it's acknowledging that the relationship is more important than the issue. Again, respect, and this is coming from the people I've interviewed. Respect is given if it's deserved or people feel you've earned the respect. And that was actually had become a reason for drinking and driving in that person's mind and that in their story and experience. There's a strong sense of collectivism in Pacific and Maori culture. There's also the sense of there's also a sense that the cultural expectations can become a burden. For example, this person talking about the church, but then the church is a part of colonization that has been introduced. So, but it is certainly part of the current day culture. And this person felt their drinking was a way, something they had to hide or something that was a reaction to the pressures of the church, the expectations. So there are the research questions that I have come up with, and what the importance of cultural knowledge in informing interventions or programs or change. The methodology fits because this could only be a qualitative research and something that's the goal is transformation. Paulo Freire is one of the important drives behind this, or one of the literature that I've quoted, and reflexive thematic analysis, Brown and Clark is one of the appropriate methodologies because it involves that reflexive bit, keeping a journal and being aware of one's own processes and subjective viewpoint. The method is in interviews, so I've completed 16 interviews and 4 focus groups. There's another 2 focus groups to come post in a sense of member reflection of the data. Following tikanga and cultural ways involving Maori and Pacifica colleagues in the process is important. And one of the founding theoretical foundations behind this study is with the work of Riruai Fox, is cultural embeddedness, because people can be acculturated, embedded into a particular culture without even knowing it. This is the culture of the modern day, the drinking culture, if you like, or the drink driving culture. And yet there is needed a process of reinculturation. How do people discover the true culture or a healthier, more positive culture, or more culturally accurate culture as well, because people have lost touch with that. And this is summed up by a person who has talked about their experience and the importance of culture. And that makes good sense. It's about connecting to identity and who we really are. And that's a good finishing note, I believe, for this presentation. Ngā mihi, mahalo apito. So 3 of my grandparents were born in England, and I was born in Poirua, grew up in Auckland and lived in Australia as well. I did my psychology study in Australia. If you go back far enough in the whakapapa, my great-great-grandfather was actually in the Henry Hughes. He was in the troopers that invaded the Waikato in 1863 1993 and confiscated the land wrongly, and so that's a uncomfortable piece of my whakapapa, which doesn't sit well with me, but it's something that I feel I need to talk about. It's something that needs to be known, and that whole, the way that land was taken and Maori were dispossessed. Yeah, I my I grew up in, like I said, in Auckland mostly. Um, I currently live in Mangere, in an area that's 60% Pacifica. Yeah.